My name's Devon. My pronouns are they, them. I graduated SCAD in 2020 with a animation BFA and character TD minor. This was before the like tracking existed in the program. So there wasn't like the tech anim concentration. I just had a minor in character tech. Right now I am working full-time remote out of Texas for a company called Genies Inc. And they make like an avatar app, kind of like The Sims, and also they make like bespoke custom avatars for celebrities. It is pretty cool. It is like not what I originally like imagined I would be doing first job out of SCAD, but it's really rewarding and I like it a lot. And I'm doing like a rigging and like tool development and like research in real-time engine stuff. So I've actually recently been doing a ton of like advanced Unity stuff that I never expected I would be doing. Super duper rewarding. I like it a lot. But we are here to talk about demo reels, and to start out, I thought I would start out with a good example of a demo reel from another alum, Jonah Reinhardt. They graduated,
They suck.
Oh, hello! Did you make it in here? I can't see the full list of people who are in the meeting.
Yes, I am. I'm in the meeting.
Welcome, welcome. I didn't know that was you. I didn't know Majestic Giraffe was you. But yeah, I'm sorry I'm gonna show everybody your reel if you weren't prepared for that mentally. But yeah, Jonah is works at, you can talk to it a little bit if you want. They're like a senior rigger at Boulder Media in Ireland. And so this is like definitely like a senior level reel. And not what I'd expect from someone like just out of school, but I think it's like a really good example of like how to set something up structurally, which is why I picked it. Got these ponies. They're so cute. All right. How is the frame rate for you guys?
He's pretty good.
Pretty good? Okay. Okay, yeah. As long as y'all were able to kind of see like topology deforming, and not like having to like watch it like a comic book. Um, so this is like a really good example because I think it like gets all the information across really concisely. It has a variety of characters and it goes through them showing you exactly what they can do, but not like sitting on them for too long. and it's got a variety of different projects, including like tools, and it's got a C++ deformer in there that proves, oh, Jonah can write in C++. That's a skill. That's like something like a company might need specifically for a higher level project. Um, it's got like good captions that have exactly what their responsibilities were per project for everything. And it's paced pretty well. Nothing like sits for too long. Everything like nothing is repetitive. I'm not seeing the same information over and over. I learned something new for every like shot or cut that's in there within the time frame. So, some of y'all might know this already. I'm not familiar with like what everybody's experience level is in here, but I'm assuming a lot of you guys are like juniors and seniors, and you're going to be like looking towards applying for jobs soon. So if you've taken like a professional development class, you'll get this on like a larger level, like art career scope. But for riggers, there's like some specifics that you'll want to know that are like good to get by looking at other people's rigging reels, right? So in general, you want to make sure it is 2 minutes or less. The 2 minutes, that's like a general guideline. If you're at 2:05, it'll probably be fine. You don't want to be less than a minute because you're just not like showing everything you can do. But if you get like too much longer than 2 minutes, when recruiters get them, they're gonna be like, ugh, I don't want to watch this. This is way too long. And they'll probably like skip through and skim and not get all the information presented the way you want it, right? You want to make sure your contact information is on there because that's how people are going to get in touch with you. You want that on the start and the end. I actually set up my reel so that it loops. That's pretty good for like if you're throwing things on social media, just a thought. Um, the music is not important. With the exception that maybe you'll be showing like an animated shot with some dialogue, but that's more important if you're doing an animation reel. For rigging, I would make sure that it reads completely, even if somebody were to mute the audio on it, because a lot of times when people are screening reels, they will mute the audio on it. Um, you want to aim your reel at the kind of position that you're actually looking to pick up. So if you are looking to work in games, it would be good and essential, actually, I think, to have a game-ready character in your reel so that the people hiring you know that you know how to make a character for games. Basically, the whole purpose of a reel is to prove that you have the skills needed for the like job description, right? So if the job description says, "Hey, we need you to like know how to do facial rigging," make sure you have facial rigging in your reel, right? If the job description says, "Hey, we need you to know how to code pipeline tools," make sure you have an example of some pipeline tools in your reel. And this is just like it's like a courtesy thing and a clarity thing. You should always note what you did on the project that you are showing, especially if it was a collaborative project and you didn't do everything. Um, it is essential that the person looking at your reel knows what you were responsible for. It is nice to, if you really like somebody's work that helped you, like an animator, to also credit them. But I know sometimes that can be impossible if you're working on a project that had like 10, 20 hands touching a single shot. Um, there is a thing called a shot sheet that I don't think people use a ton anymore, but if you really wanted to, you can write out like a little PDF that breaks down your reel and credit like everybody who touched a shot there in a way that's not going to like take up the entire screen of your video. Here are just some things that I think, like, no matter what position you're aiming for, you should always kind of have in a rigging reel. At the very least, a biped, a facial rig, a non-biped rig, some sort of tool, and an example of what you're trying to specialize in. Now, I am not like, this isn't like hard and fast, especially if you're like not applying for like a bog standard character TD position. If you're doing like, oh, this is kind of like a simulation thing, you can like omit some of the more rigging centric stuff and opt for more simulation in there, right? It's like I said earlier, you should be aiming at the position that you're trying to hit. Um, and if you think something improves your presentation, I think it's totally fine to break any rule for the overall effect of a reel. So I think it's only fair to show you guys my reel. There are definitely some things that I like and that I dislike about it, and it's certainly a little bit outdated. But if I'm going to tell you these things, it's only fair to prove that I have made a reel before and I follow my own advice. So this is my reel, which I put together in winter of 2020. All right. So you can kind of see with this, it clocks in at 1:56, which is just under the time limit that we set. So we are all good there. I think if I were to redo this reel, I would definitely put more code in it for sure and focus it better. At the time when I graduated, I wasn't like totally sure whether I was going to aim at like games or like new media or maybe even like traditional film pipeline. And so I kind of tried to keep my reel really general and versatile to show that I was a jack of all trades and a generalist. And I also had a completely separate animation reel that I maintained as well. My first gig out of school actually was doing game animation and not even rigging. Um, so I would make this more focused, especially if I were like looking at specific positions in the future. Um, but I think the variety of stuff that's in there like holds up, at least for the time being. So, people like to talk a lot about the order of the pieces in your demo reel. I think this is like really, really important for animators to like make sure you hit with like strongest piece first and like maintain some sort of energy flow through the whole thing. With riggers, I don't think it's as important. I think you should definitely start out with a good piece, but I like people will say start out with your strongest piece, and I don't always agree. I think sometimes it makes more sense to start out with something that's easily understandable, like a biped, but don't start out with a biped that sucks. If you have a biped that sucks, don't put it in your reel. You should like make sure everything in your reel is something you feel is presentation worthy, and says something new. I would say the same with the ending. People will say, do your second strongest piece at the end. And I think that's decent advice. I usually would end with something that's like a little more complex and harder to understand, like some sort of like pipeline tool, maybe. But I don't think that the end with your second strongest piece is hard and fast advice. I think you should like aim it at what you're trying to do, right? Same advice I've been given this whole time. Um, if you feel like you have a piece that's a filler piece in the middle that you're just trying to take up time, and you don't actually think it's that impressive or showcases your skills very well, remove it. Take it out. Replace it with something. Everything in your reel should have a purpose. It's a highlight reel, right? It's you're not just trying to like show off rigs that exist. You're trying to prove that you are the best candidate for this job with your reel. So I'm gonna like go through each of the categories I talked about earlier, and go through like how I would present them. You'll notice that I started out my reel with that little clown character. I did that specifically because I'm like, this is a basic biped rig that I did from scratch, that I skinned from scratch, that would be a good example to show that I can do a biped rig. But it's not just bog standard because I added some effects onto her, right? The biped exists mostly to prove that you can skin, especially in film and a lot of the times in games. 90% of your job as a professional is going to be using an auto rigger or some sort of in-house tool to create the rig from scratch. And then you're going to be skinning it, and that's going to take 90% of your time. So good deformations are like your number one skill. You want to be able to skin weight well, and your biped exists to show that you can do it. Therefore, how does an animated character get seen as an end product, right? It's usually in a shot or in some sort of loop if you're doing a game. So one of the best ways to showcase that your rig works and deforms well is to show it in motion. Be it like a range of motion test, like moving its arms and legs around and bending it over and putting it into poses that can be problematic usually, and proving that it holds up and it looks good even when pushed to the extremes. I would recommend against just showing your character in T-pose and showing every single control and wiggling it around. That usually will take up a lot of time and is not nearly as effective as just showing the character in a couple of poses. If you're not competent or confident, in your ability to animate or to pose a character nicely, I would ask a friend. There's no shame in that. Or I would appropriate a shot from a project that that character got used in. Definitely credit everyone, but like animation is not your job. So you should try and showcase the character as best you can, and you don't have to be the one animating it in order to do that. In terms of having the wireframes on and off, it's like up to preference. I do feel like if you're showing a viewport capture, showing the wireframes does kind of keep you honest. But if you think the character looks good when posed but the topology looks weird, I would leave the wireframe off. That's kind of why that Hallucigenia, that pink worm character in the demo, I left her wireframe off because she's really low poly and sometimes looks kind of funky when she's in a pose, but if you art direct it, it doesn't really matter. So I wanted to show this example of what I think is like a super effective demo of a biped. This isn't a demo reel necessarily. This actually comes out of DreamWorks. This was from the Crudes 2. They did a rig features breakdown that they published online, and I've shown it to a ton of people because to this day I think this is one of the most effective, like very quick, simple demonstrations of like, why is this rig good? What can it do?
Left, right.
And it's also really fun and nicely animated, so you can't go wrong. Yeah. So what that video really does well, it doesn't bother with like getting into technical details. It just tells you what the animators are going to want from this rig and that it accomplishes it, right? And so like seeing, oh, this lattice would get used for like doing smears. I think it's really effective. Oh, these body dots, you'll be able to like shape the character into whatever shape you want. You can see even like the character interacting with how the dots how you would. I've just always thought it was really effective. In terms of facial rigs, it's a lot of the advice I would give is pretty similar to the biped. You're proving you can skin um like with the biped, and you're also proving because facial setup from scratch is a little bit more difficult and a little bit more layered than body setup from scratch. You're proving that you can work within that complex system. Maybe you're doing a lot of corrective blend shapes. Maybe you're like working within the constraints of so many joints because you're in a game engine and you're trying to get like an effective deformation on like within those limitations. Show off what you're trying to aim for. Range of motion tests, especially, I think they're very effective for a biped, but for like a face rig, I almost always would like ask for a range of motion test over like a wiggle test any day. You kind of see these things coming out of Disney. I didn't grab an example, but they'll do like a one-to-one comparison of a concept art facial push test and then try and get that on the rig. And it always like you get a lot of bang for your buck with that kind of test. It's really effective. Non-human rigs are good to have in your reel. It's good not to be repetitious as well. So if you've already done a biped and a face, what else can you show them, right? There's all sorts of things you can rig. You can do a quadruped. You can do an insect. You can do some other creature, maybe a bird with wings, and all of those will show that you can do problem solving outside of like the standard constraints of rigging and creativity. That's kind of why I threw a 2D rig that I did in Maya into my reel to show I can work within the constraints of doing a 2D rig. I can figure something out. There is, I wish I had this. I tried to track it down and wasn't able to find it, but there is somebody's SCAD Alum's demo reel where they had rigged a couch. The rig was honestly like, it was okay. It was a normal rig of a couch that had to like emote like a character. But I had gone to a presentation where a recruiter was showing this reel as a good example, and she was like obsessed with the couch. She was like, I can't believe they rigged a couch. Isn't that amazing? So know that if you rig something strange like a couch, that will probably stand out at the very least to the people who are the early stage recruiters reviewing your work before it goes to the riggers. It is really, really, really good to show tools and code in your reels. Especially tools. Showing just like a straight up command line code is kind of hard to evaluate, I think, in a video. So it's better if you have like an interface, like in Jonah's reel, which I showed, there's an auto rigger. And I think that's a really good candidate for a reel, but because it can like show you the interface, show it how it works, and show like how would somebody practically use this to set up a character, right? The tool exists in your reel basically to prove that you can code and that you can problem solve. If you're making a tool, if you're trying to like think of a tool to make, I think it's always a good exercise to think of what repetitious things you're doing in your workflow and try and automate from there. When I was working on my senior film, Cambrian Explosion, I had a main character who had 8 legs, right? And so at that point, I decided I am absolutely not rigging from scratch 8 legs. And there is no auto rigger, except for maybe the Hermes modular auto rigger if I'd felt so inclined. But most auto riggers, like Advanced Skeleton, that we were using in the department, did not have the capacity to make a character with the anatomy I was working with. So I wrote up code for 1 leg and I did it 8 times. That is pretty much like bog standard in the industry. If you're going to be doing something more than once because of the time constraints you're going to have, you need to do it in code the first time and then have it automated for the rest of the time. A lot of people's entire jobs, a lot of my job included, is just doing code and maintaining code and like making sure the rigging department can work in an automated way. If you don't know how to code at this point, there's never a better time to start than the present. Um, and I would highly recommend it because it will make you infinitely more hireable. And it'll allow you to like branch out a lot. So I thought since I showed my reel, I showed the DreamWorks reel, and I showed Jonah's reel. So I should probably bring in a reel that is a good example of like somebody who's just coming out of SCAD looking to get a job, right? So I have as an example, Laurel Griffith is a former officer from last year who's now working as an associate TD at High Res Games in Alpharetta. Yeah, I always thought her reel was super effective coming right out of school, so I'm going to show you that as my last example. So Laurel, I believe, when she was about to graduate, she knew that she had done an internship at Insomniac and knew that she wanted to go into real time, right? And so she has some really good examples of both like there's a real time character in here and there is an auto rigger that's made for Unreal Engine in here. So anybody who was looking at this would know, okay, Laurel is definitely competent when it comes to game rigging and would be able to pull it off, right? There's also like every single one of those categories that I discussed earlier is present in this reel. It's got a biped and a facial gymnastics and multiple tools, good skinning all around, different types of creatures, all the good stuff. So if you can get to this level by the time you're about to graduate, you will have everything that you need in order to land something right out of school. That and like being nice to people. That's the other thing when it comes to getting hired. You cannot overestimate the value of just like being a good team player, being good to work with, like having a good interview, having been nice to people in school so that they'll recommend you for things, and so that you can like return the favor in the future, you know? Having like genuine human connections with people and being responsible will get you like really far once you've gotten your foot in the door. I wanted to go into websites and things a little bit, but I figured since this is kind of the end of my reel section, I wanted to ask if anybody had any questions.
Yeah, just a little quick question about music in demo reels.
Yeah.
I was doing my research a while ago because I was making kind of like a dummy demo reel just for practice. And one of the things I saw was that like for music in your demo reel, for the most part, you're not going to want to have lyrics at all.
Mhm. I would say that's true. I think that's good advice, if only because some people have trouble reading text and hearing words at the same time. You want to make sure your reel is like as accessible as possible and doesn't have like any distracting elements. It's kind of the same as any you would with any kind of graphic design or video design. You want to make sure that your content gets across. So, I don't think it would like destroy your reel if you had lyrics in it, but I think it would be distracting. Any other questions? Yeah, thank you,
Just
Roman,
one
for your
other thing is
question. Yeah, for sure.
well, yeah, sorry. So it's like you were saying, it's like getting to the point of like where that one reel was. It's then you said like get to this point, you're gonna be good for the end of your senior year, and I'm
Mhm.
guessing it's just like once you get hired someplace, you're probably expected to just keep learning more and more and more, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the graduating college is just step 1, right? You'll probably like, the experience I hear from most people is they graduate college and they think they're pretty good, and then they get their first job and they're like, "Oh my god, I have so much to learn and I've learned so much in the last, like, month. It's, like, doubled my like, all the knowledge I had in college just from, like, 1 week on the job," right? It's like getting thrown into the pool, you know? You'll learn to swim. So, yeah, you will definitely like the college reel that you have at the end of your senior year will not be your final reel. You'll have to end up revising your reel if you want to get another job or if you want to or even if you just want to have something updated to keep on the internet. Like your skills will grow and so your reel will become outdated pretty quickly. All right. So I'm going to go a little bit into websites as well. I will confess I have let my website expire. I will have to remake it someday, and I will probably remake it quite differently from how I initially made it. But websites are pretty important. You can get by without one, but they're nice to have, especially if you want to get some like name recognition. This is all something you do in tandem with like having a LinkedIn profile and having a Vimeo profile and having other social media if you feel so inclined and having business cards. Like they should all kind of have the same profile picture, the same general design, the same contact information. Um, Websites pretty much just exist in order to host your demo reel, host your resume, and have like a small about you page to explain some of the stuff that won't come across in either of those. Um, you can basically copy paste the exact same information onto your LinkedIn so it's consistent. If you are like a designer or an illustrator or an animator, even graphic design is important on your website because you are trying to express like your visual competency. Riggers, not so much. You can have something basic or something templatey, and I don't think anybody is going to like question your competency. Like beyond, don't use Comic Sans, but if it's a little generic, I think that's okay. Um, Consistency, cleanliness, readability, all the stuff that you'll probably get that in professional development class, and that's relevant to everybody. Um, One thing that is really useful on a website, if you have contact info somewhere, if it's in an image, that's okay, but if it is in text that's copy pastable, that is awesome because the way people are getting your information oftentimes is by looking at your website and then throwing that information into a spreadsheet or some other like organizational document. And if they make a typo, then they're never going to be able to contact you, right? I've been in the position where I've been like recommending people for jobs and I've been like, oh God, I gotta be really careful. I type this person's extremely long email correctly because I want to make sure recruiting gets it. So if you just want to take that out of the equation, copy pastable text on your website with your contact information. Um, this is just sort of an aside, But I think if you are a rigger or doing technical work, it can be really beneficial to have like a process blog of some sort. It's definitely optional, but I think it can be like a really valuable little window into your personality and into your problem solving ability. I don't personally have one, but when I've been like lately needing to find tutorial resources or like code to like help with a project, other people's rigging blogs have been like a gold mine of information and has like really increased my esteem of these people, right? You really see that, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. They've broken down this process into something easy to understand. Um, I feel the same way about if you have like a YouTube channel. If you do videos, if you do tutorials, I think that is a super awesome way to like demonstrate your problem solving ability to a recruiter if you feel so inclined. If you like doing it. If you don't like doing it, that's also fine. It's not a requirement and it's not the only way to demonstrate that you know how to rig. I just wanted to plug Chad Vernon's website because it has been invaluable to me in like the last month or so. I've been like trying to do stuff with like higher level math stuff that I certainly didn't get in school, whether it is like high school or college. Like we're learning artistic stuff, right? Sometimes the technical stuff gets overlooked. And so like this Python scripting for Maya Artists series is super super awesome. There's just some like blog entries about like solvers and other 3D math, super useful stuff. Go check it out. It's good. That's basically the end of my spiel. I did want to throw out there, since this is a demo reel presentation, if anybody is feeling especially brave or especially like looking for advice and has a demo reel they want to get like previewed and critiqued here, I would be super open to looking at people's reels, be it now or be it like offline via an email or anything. So, any questions? Any brave volunteers who want to share their demo reel?
I could show mine actually.
Oh, sure. Yeah, post a link somewhere.
Oh, I don't have it. I don't think I. Oh wait, it is posted on YouTube. Yeah. I was kind of like trying to get like a little summer internship. I didn't get it, but
Mhm.
it's my little sophomore YouTube reel. I
Yeah,
gotta
for
find it
sure.
first because I'm not good at I'm not good at YouTube.
No worries. Yeah, how in depth of critique are you looking for?
Um, I mean, I guess this is kind of like it's something that I definitely am trying to get better at.
Mhm.
Um, I showed this to Jonah actually a while ago.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we'll take a look at it, and I think we can like taking into account that you are a sophomore, and definitely like you'll grow exponentially, I'm sure, and I know you're already very talented.
All right,
We
it's
will,
in meeting topics,
yeah,
and
I'll
this
go
was
through it with like the same criteria I went through with like the other reels in this presentation.
yeah, and the only thing that's really different about things now is the dog rig that's finished now. It's totally
Mm,
done. It's just at the time it wasn't done, and I was like, well, I want to kind of include it because I did some cool scripting stuff with it too. So
awesome. Okay, can everybody see my screen with the video?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So right away, I like your title card. It looks good. I like that your contact information is here. I like that you've got an art station. That's awesome. Art station's really good for hosting stuff. I love Snufkin. So cute.
my first ever character rig.
Oh wow.
Actually, wait, no, this is the first ever one. That stuff feels like the first in-depth one.
Yeah, good stretchy leg. Good twist on that. Yeah, I agree that it would definitely like be good to see the skin finished version of this. because like demonstrating the rig is awesome, but demonstrating the rig and the deformations at the same time is really good and efficient. As far as these models go, I think the turntables look great, but they might actually be better hosted like on your ArtStation. Like I don't know if they like fit totally into the rigging reel, and it would be good to see them separately, especially if you can like. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to click on drum and bass nonstop bangers. Anyway, yeah, I think that the modeling stuff, ArtStation is really good at hosting that, and I think actually either that or Sketchfab lets you do like live real-time turntables right now, right? If somebody really wanted to get a good visual on your model and like get up close and personal with the topology, that would probably be a better format to do it than in the rigging reel. I do understand if you're just like wanting to pad it out for time a little bit too. They look good, so it's good to like have that available in your portfolio somewhere. I liked the variety of projects you had in there in terms of rigging. I think that the yeah, I definitely want to see the dog rig finished. I want to I think advise that the ribbon script accomplishes the same thing that you show in the dog with the ribbon limbs, right? I would imagine you probably use the ribbon script to set up the ribbon limbs and in the dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're demonstrating the ribbon script, you don't need to demonstrate the ribbons again in the dog unless you're showing off skin deformation. So yeah, I would just try and like avoid redundant information whenever possible. I think your music is good. I think it was totally unobtrusive. I thought the length felt good. I did feel like the wiggle test on the dog also like went on for a little long, and it would be better to like you did with Snufkin, and with the robot, show an animation clip of some sort to get the gist of it. Um, Rather than like going and messing around with every control. If you show like a well animated character, a lot of times people will assume already that you like have the competency to do things like an awesome spine and like FK controls on a tail or like an FK IK leg or that sort of thing. But I think for what you've got, this is like super impressive for where you're at in your school career. Like I'm excited to see how this is going to grow and develop for sure. Thanks so much, Roman. Did
Yeah.
any
Thanks for looking at it.
Yeah, for sure. Um, did anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to offer one tip to Roman. When you go back and you do your screen capture for your dog with the mesh on it, there's a document in the SCAD Rigging Union Google Drive that tells you like how to hide all of the UI stuff that usually clutters up a screen capture.
Mhm.
That can help you like really maximize how much of the screen is being used by the viewport.
For sure. Yeah, that definitely helps. Or otherwise like cropping it somehow, just making sure you get a full like HD capture obviously still. But yeah, if you can get like a full viewport taking up the screen, it definitely helps out with like telling somebody where to focus when they're like looking at your rig. They won't be looking at like your outliner or your channel box or anything.